From players brutally attacked on the course, to devastating tournament-ending mistakes, these are the 30 most mind-blowing moments in golf history. And first we start with number 30. It's the 18th hole at TPC Harding Park, and tensions are already high. Keegan Bradley, known for his fiery on-course personality, was wrapping up what had already been a long, intense match. But then, out of nowhere, Miguel Angel Jimenez, a player famous for his distinctive look and laid-back attitude, decides to jump in with some advice. Jimenez noticed Bradley was about to take a drop and, as a seasoned veteran, felt the need to point out that Keegan should take 2 club lengths instead of 1. But here's the thing. Keegan didn't ask for advice, and he definitely didn't appreciate the interruption. The situation escalated fast. Keegan's caddy, Steve Hale, immediately stepped in telling Jimenez to back off. But Jimenez, he wasn't backing down for anyone. He fired right back, turning what should have been a simple rule reminder into an all-out showdown. Keegan jumped in to defend his caddy, squaring up face-to-face with Jimenez, letting him know just how unwelcome his help was. The argument got heated, with both players practically nose-to-nose, all happening right there on the fairway for everyone to see. Later, Keegan reflected on the incident, saying it was a heat-of-the-moment reaction, but he made one thing crystal clear. He'd stand up for his caddy no matter what. And Jimenez? He didn't apologize, not even close. He doubled down, insisting he was just enforcing the rules like any veteran would. Next up, number 29. The final round of the 2024 Travelers Championship at TPC River Highlands was meant to be an incredible showdown, with Scottie Scheffler and Tom Kim battling it out for the win. But, as they closed in on the 18th green, something totally unexpected stopped them in their tracks. Picture this. You're watching your favorite players rounding up their round, and then suddenly, a commotion erupted from the sidelines. Out of nowhere, a group of 6 protesters suddenly stormed the 18th green, catching everyone by surprise. But they didn't just run onto the course. They came prepared. Smoke canisters exploded, filling the air with thick, colored smoke as they scattered a strange powdery substance across the green. Fans and players alike stood frozen, watching in shock as the protesters, dressed in shirts that read, "No Golf on a Dead Planet," turned the quiet green into the scene of a full-blown protest. The once serene fairway looked more like a chaotic rally, all under the banner of environmental activism. Scheffler and Kim, visibly rattled, backed off, watching as security rushed in to take control. And control was exactly what they needed. These protesters weren't going anywhere without a fight. Security officers took swift action, tackling a few of the activists to the ground as smoke swirled around them, turning the green into a scene of pure chaos. Coming in at number 28, Sergio Garcia gave golf fans a moment they'll never forget at the 2013 Arnold Palmer Invitational. I mean, how often do you see a golfer hit a ball out of a tree? It all started with a tee shot on the 10th hole that went way off course. So far off, in fact, that it got stuck 15 feet up in the branches of a tree. While most players would have taken a drop and moved on, Garcia had other ideas. So what does he do? He climbs the tree. Yep, you heard that right. With the crowd watching, he's hugging the tree like a koala, and in a move straight out of a trick shot video, he takes a one-handed backward swing. And guess what? He actually makes contact. The ball flies out of the tree and lands back in play, leaving everyone, including his playing partner, William McGirt, completely stunned. And right when you thought it was over, it takes a dramatic turn. As epic as the shot was, it didn't come without a price. Sergio tweaked his shoulder in the process, and his next shot barely traveled 30 yards. He ended up with a double bogey on the hole, and to top it all off, thunderstorms hit, forcing him to withdraw from the tournament to avoid further injury. Sliding into number 27, and here we have an absolute embarrassing moment from the 2019 PGA Championship. A reminder that sometimes, it's not just the golfers who steal the show. It was a tense moment on the 16th hole at Bethpage Black, with players battling the notorious course. But suddenly, all eyes turned to the edge of the green, where one fan, clearly enjoying a few too many drinks, wobbled a bit too close to the action. He tried to steady himself, but in a clumsy misstep, he lost his balance and toppled straight into a greenside bunker. Laughter rippled through the crowd as the fan tried to climb out, only to slip and slide down. With each failed attempt, the fan's alcohol-fueled determination grew, and he continued his struggle, slipping, sliding, and trying again, much to the crowd's delight. Finally, after a few more tries and growing cheers from onlookers, security stepped in, helping him make a not-so-graceful exit from the bunker. Get ready for number 26. When Rudy Giuliani, former New York City mayor, decided to tell a story about Michelle Wie on a podcast, he probably didn't expect the firestorm that followed. He was playing a round of golf with Rush Limbaugh and Michelle Wie, and the paparazzi were all over them. Limbaugh blamed Giuliani for attracting the attention, but Giuliani quickly pointed out that they weren't there for him or Limbaugh. They were there for someone else. Michelle Wie is on the green, getting ready to putt, Giuliani said. Now, Michelle is gorgeous. She's 6 feet tall, and she has this strange putting stance where she bends all the way over, and her panties show. The press was going crazy or trying to take pictures of her panties. Then, Giuliani, laughing, added, "I said, Rush, it's not me, it's not you, it's her panties." He awkwardly ended the story by asking, "Is it okay to tell that joke?" He may have thought it was funny, but the comment was more creepy than comedic. Michelle quickly responded on social media, calling out Giuliani's comments as highly inappropriate. She didn't mention him by name, but it was clear she was disgusted by how casually he'd objectified her. The whole incident highlighted just how often female athletes face scrutiny and inappropriate remarks that have nothing to do with their skills. Here's number 25. The PGA Tour usually maintains a calm and respectful atmosphere, but sometimes fans cross the line. In one memorable incident at the 2024 Phoenix Open, players like Zach Johnson and Billy Horschel had enough of the unruly crowd. So Johnson, usually the picture of calm, had just taken his shot at the 10th. But even before he stepped up, you could feel something was off. The atmosphere around him was tense, and it didn't take long to figure out why. A fan, clearly having a bit too much fun, had been heckling him, saying things between swings and completely throwing off Johnson's focus. As he walked toward the next hole, the heckler just wouldn't quit. His voice pierced through the crowd, pushing Johnson to the edge. And then, as if pulled by an invisible thread, Johnson found himself face to face with the heckler. He didn't hesitate. In a rare flash of frustration, he shot back, telling the fan, "I'm sick of it, shut up." It was a moment that caught everyone by surprise. This wasn't something you'd expect from the normally composed Johnson. But even the calmest players have their limits, and that fan had just crossed it. Horschel also didn't hold back. When a fan started shouting during a swing, he turned around and let them know just how disruptive they were being. He wasn't just annoyed, he was furious, telling the crowd to be quiet so his fellow players could concentrate. Even Ricky Fowler had his own run-in with a fan at the Players' Championship, which went viral. These incidents showed that, while golf might seem serene, players have their limits, and sometimes the fans who are supposed to cheer them on end up being the biggest distraction. It's time for number 24 on our list. This is probably the best comeback ever for die-hard Tiger fans. And yes, we're at the 2019 Masters. Now, if you want to talk about comebacks, this isn't just a golf comeback. Think about where Tiger was just 2 years earlier. Mugshots plastered across the news, back surgeries that left him barely able to walk. His career was supposedly over. The greatest player of his generation, reduced to almost nothing. But Tiger had other plans. The final round at Augusta that year was pure drama. Francesco Molinari's in the lead, Brooks Koepka's lurking. But there's Tiger, methodically working his way through the course like it's 2005 all over again. Then, the turning point. The 12th hole, Golden Bell. Molinari's tee shot finds the water, a double bogey. Suddenly, the door swings wide open for Tiger, and he doesn't waste a second. On 15, Firethorn, Tiger sinks a birdie to grab the lead as Molinari falters again. The 16th hole, Redbud? Oh, this one's for the highlight reel. Tiger hits it so close, it's practically a hole-in-one. Just a little tap-in birdie, and now he's firmly in control. When that final putt dropped on 18, the roar could probably be heard in space. Woods carded a 70, finishing at 13 under par, just one shot ahead of the pack. 11 years since his last major. 14 years since his last green jacket. His 5th Masters title. His 15th major championship. And beyond the stats, this was a victory for the ages. Or, as Tiger might say, not bad for a guy who was almost traded in for a golf cart. Here at number 23, and it's the year 2000, Loch Lomond, Scotland. Annika Sorenstam is about to make a chip shot that'll go down in history. Not because it was particularly brilliant, no. This shot was special for a whole other reason. Sorenstam lines up, takes her swing, and plop, the ball drops right into the hole. A perfect chip. The crowd goes wild. Sorenstam's pumped. Her partner, Janice Moody, is over the moon. It's a beautiful moment. But wait, what's this? The American team is huddling. They're whispering. And suddenly, out comes Kelly Robbins, pointing an accusing finger. "She played out of turn. she cries. Now, let me tell you guys, in golf, playing out of turn is a real scandal. But to call someone out on it after they've already made the shot? That's cold. So the officials gather, and then the verdict. Sorenstam has to replay the shot. Sorenstam tries to keep it together, but you can see it in her eyes. She's rattled. She takes the shot again, and it doesn't go in. Europe loses the hole, and later, the match. This incident set the tone for years to come. It was like opening Pandora's box of golf drama. And boy, did those controversies come flying out. So here we are at number 22, where the impossible actually becomes reality. Once upon a time, there was this unassuming girl named Sofia Popov, destined to become the heroine of a real-life Cinderella story. It all happened at the 2020 Women's British Open. Sofia was ranked 304th in the world and has never won a senior professional event. The idea of her becoming a major champion? Yeah, it seemed completely impossible. She'd even lost her LPGA Tour card the year before. And the only reason she even got into the British Open was thanks to a top 10 finish at the Marathon Classic, an event she barely got into because higher-ranked players couldn't attend due to COVID-19. Talk about a wild twist of fate. But Sofia wasn't about to let the odds tell her story. Nope, she pulled off one of the most shocking upsets in golf history. After an absolutely near-perfect final round at Royal Troon, she shot 3 under 68 to win by 2 strokes, making her the first German woman ever to win a major title. And here's the kicker. This wasn't just a win for the trophy shelf. This was a life-changing moment. The $675,000 winner's check, that alone was more than 6 times her total career earnings up to that point. But the real magic was in what she'd overcome to get there. For years, Popov had battled health issues, including Lyme disease, which made her victory all the more emotional. As she tapped in her final putt, the tears started flowing, because she knew how big this moment was. "I almost quit playing last year," she admitted, holding back the emotion. "Thank God I didn't." You won't believe what's at number 21. So let's talk you through it, because this shot by Jon Rahm is easily one of the most iconic moments in golf history, and it all happened during the 2020 Masters tournament at Augusta National Golf Club. On November 10th, during a fun practice round tradition at Augusta's iconic 16th hole, Rahm did something legendary. So here's the scene. Rahm pulls out his 8-iron, gives the ball a solid strike, and sends it skipping across the water. Now, this is already exciting, right? But what happens next? Mind-blowing. The ball skips 3 times, lands perfectly on the green, and starts bouncing. And just when you think, okay, nice shot, it gets even crazier. The ball starts rolling, straight toward the hole. With perfect pace and dead-on accuracy, the ball tracks the slope, and bam, it drops in for a hole-in-one. I mean, what are the odds? And what makes this even sweeter? It was Rahm's 26th birthday. Talk about the ultimate birthday gift, right? Coming in at number 20. And this time, we're in Colorado for the 2013 Solheim Cup. There is this new girl in town who stepped onto the course with fire in her eyes and a lot to prove. Her name, Charley Hull. She was about to make her Solheim Cup debut. The pressure was on. As the youngest player on Team Europe, she needed to pull through against Paula Creamer, one of the most respected and experienced players in the game. And to make it even tougher, they were playing on American soil. Most people watching figured this rookie didn't stand a chance. But Charley had something up her sleeve. An army of European fans who were ready to bring the noise. From the first tee, the vibe was electric. The European fans came out in full force, waving their flags and chanting Hull's name like it was the World Cup final. Charley soaked it all up, grinning from ear to ear, while Creamer kept her head down, looking serious. But every time Charley lined up a shot, the cheers got louder. And when those birdies started dropping, the crowd went wild, making it feel like the whole course was shaking. As the match went on, Hull kept pulling ahead. The fans were relentless, getting louder with every shot, and it was clear Creamer was feeling the heat. By the time they hit the 14th hole, Hull had it locked in. With a clinical putt, Hull sealed the match 5-4, and just like that, a victory that secured the Solheim Cup for Europe for the first time on American soil. And just when you thought that was it, here comes the best part. After the match, as Paula Creamer went to shake hands, Charley Hull, all smiles, casually goes, "Hey, can I get your autograph?" It was the kind of innocent question that carried a whole lot of weight. A cheeky little nudge like, "I just beat you, and now I want you to sign off on it." The crowd went nuts. Some couldn't believe it. Others were loving every second. Next, at number 19, we're diving into the legend himself, Tommy Thunderbolt. And let me tell you something. When you're so good at throwing tantrums that the PGA has to create a rule specifically because of you, you know you're operating on a different level. They called him Terrible Tommy, which honestly sounds more like a professional wrestler than a golfer. But man, did he earn that nickname. He once threw his driver into a canal in Miami, and it sank so deep that a professional diver couldn't find it. Bolt later claimed he did it to entertain the crowds. According to him, it thrills crowds to see a guy suffer. Well, mission accomplished, Tommy. He even had this amazing quote about which clubs fly the farthest when you throw them. Apparently, the putter goes the longest distance, followed by the sand wedge. The driver, shortest distance. This man had actually done enough research to create a scientific hierarchy of throwable golf clubs. That's dedication to the craft. But one of the best stories has to be the time his caddy handed him a club and Tommy, already seething, asked, "Why this one?" The caddy, deadpan, replied, "Because it's the only one left in the bag. When you've thrown out every other club, you know you've hit a new level of rage." Sliding into number 18, and we're in the 2015 President's Cup in South Korea. And a moment that had everyone going, "Wait, what just happened?" It's day 2 of the competition. The atmosphere is electric. The US team is locked in a tight battle with the internationals. And then, out of nowhere, Phil Mickelson, one of the most experienced and savvy players in the game, makes a mistake so basic that everybody shakes their heads in disbelief. So what exactly went down? Well, Mickelson, playing alongside Zach Johnson in a 4-ball match, decides to switch to a firmer golf ball for his second shot on the par 5 7th hole. Sounds innocent enough, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. See, Mickelson thought he was in the clear. In Ryder Cup play, when the event's in the US, there's no one-ball rule. So Phil figured the same applied to the President's Cup outside the States. But it doesn't. The one-ball rule was very much in effect, meaning players had to stick with the same type of ball throughout the round. The penalty for this infraction? 1-hole adjustment. Basically, Mickelson and Johnson go from all square in their match to 1 down. But wait, it gets better, or worse depending on how you look at it. A rules official, maybe in a moment of confusion, tells Mickelson he's disqualified from the hole. So Phil picks up his ball, leaving Johnson to play the hole alone against Jason Day and Adam Scott. Day wins the hole, and now Mickelson and Johnson are 2 down. Get ready for number 17. So, during the Maybank Malaysian Open in 2014, Pablo Larrazabal faced one of the most terrifying moments of his career. It started off like any other round of golf. He was playing well, completely focused on the game. But then, something strange happened on the 5th hole. The air suddenly seemed thicker, and out of the corner of his eye, he noticed something swarming around him. A swarm of massive hornets, 3 times the size of bees, suddenly attacked him. About 30 to 40 hornets descended on him, and in panic, his caddy yelled for him to run. But the hornets wouldn't let up. Fellow players shouted for him to jump into the water hazard, and without hesitation, Pablo threw down his scorecard, ripped off his shoes, and dived into the lake. Reflecting on the incident later, Pablo revealed that the hornets sprayed pheromones on him, attracting more of the swarm. He was stung more than 20 times on the back of his neck, but his hat saved him from even more stings. He confessed, "If I didn't have a hat, I would be dead." Thanks to quick thinking and the advice of Bular's caddy, Pablo avoided what could have been a life-threatening situation. Here we are at number 16. It's 2013 Colorado Friday afternoon, and the first 4-ball match is underway. Everything's going as usual until we reach the 15th hole, and that's when all hell breaks loose. Carlota Ciganda, playing for Europe, hits her ball into a hazard. No big deal, right? Happens all the time. Just take a drop and move on. Oh, if only it were that simple. What follows is 25 minutes. Yes, you heard that right, 25 minutes, of officials huddling, discussing, and probably drawing diagrams in the sand, all to figure out where Ciganda should drop her ball. Now, 25 minutes might not seem like a long time in the grand scheme of things, but on a golf course, it's an eternity. You could probably play 3 holes in that time. Heck, you could probably go grab a hot dog, use the restroom, and still make it back in time for the ruling. Finally, after what feels like a geological age, they make a decision. Ciganda gets to drop her ball 40 yards away from where it went in. Now, for those of you who aren't golf rules experts, that's unusual, to say the least. Usually you drop within 2 club lengths of where the ball entered the hazard. 40 yards? That's practically a different hole. The Americans are not happy. Stacey Lewis is seen throwing her hands up in disgust. She probably would have thrown her club too if it wouldn't have gotten her disqualified. After all the discussion and the waiting, the LPGA later admitted they got it wrong. Yep, all that time, and they still messed it up. We're halfway through at number 15 with this very special moment in golf's history. The world of golf changed forever in 1997 when 21-year-old Tiger Woods set the Masters tournament on fire. Tiger became the youngest player in history to win, and not just by a little bit. He absolutely crushed the competition with an unbelievable 12-stroke victory. Let that sink in, gentlemen. 12 strokes. To this day, no one's even come close to that kind of blowout at the Masters. He was tearing through that field like he'd been doing it for decades, leaving everyone else looking like amateurs. Golf Digest even called it the dawn of dominance. And oh man, were they right. Tiger stormed through all 4 rounds, but the moment that really sealed the deal? His insane third round 65, going 7 under. That's when the rest of the field probably realized, yeah, we're done here. By the time the final round rolled around, Tiger was untouchable. When it was all said and done, Woods lifted his first ever Masters trophy, and more importantly, he had rewritten golf history by the end of that day. And the crazy part? The world knew this was just the beginning of something legendary. Over the next 20 years, Tiger didn't disappoint, collecting 15 major titles and sitting right behind the GOAT himself, Jack Nicklaus. All right, history lesson is over. Let's jump into some unbelievable shots. Next up, number 14, and this one is very rare. It was the opening round of the 2024 US Women's Open at Lancaster Country Club, and for Isi Gabsa, everything seemed set for just another day of golf. But on the par 3 12th hole, as she lined up her tee shot, fate had a different plan. What happened next was a 1 in a trillion moment that left fans and commentators absolutely speechless. Here's the shocker. Gabsa steadied herself, took her swing, and watched as the ball took off with perfect form, soaring towards the green. The crowd followed the ball's arc in quiet anticipation, until something utterly improbable happened. Out of nowhere, a bird swooped across the fairway, seemingly appearing in slow motion, and collided directly with Gabsa's ball. The ball struck the bird mid-flight, sending it spiraling down to the ground, leaving the entire course silent. Captured live on television, the moment immediately drew comparisons to Randy Johnson's infamous 2001 baseball pitch that met the same fateful end for an unsuspecting bird. Talk about bad timing. That poor bird definitely picked the wrong moment for a flyby. Here's one for in the books, number 13. It wasn't even during the tournament. This controversy kicked off before a single ball was hit. Enter Katrin Nilsmark, a Swedish player with a sharp mouth. She wasn't even playing in the 2002 Solheim Cup, but she did make her presence felt. You see, back then, Nilsmark was sitting at home when she decided to spice things up a bit. She hops onto a Swedish website and starts ripping into the American players. She calls Christy Kerr a little brat. Ouch. But she's just getting warmed up. Then she takes aim at Michelle Redman, saying she has absolutely no talent. The LPGA decided the best way to handle this was to post a translation on their website and distribute copies through the ladies' locker room. A perfect idea to warm up before the game. You can imagine the scene in that locker room. U.S. Captain Patty Sheehan, trying to be the adult in the room, said most of the European players had come up to her and apologized. "I know they feel bad about the comments," she said. Yeah, I bet they did. If it was me, I'd be plotting my revenge on the 18th green. And you know what? Maybe that's exactly what the American team did. Because guess what happened next? They came from behind and won 7 singles matches, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. Now, I'm not saying Nilsmark's trash talk was the reason the US team won, but let's be honest, nothing motivates quite like proving your haters wrong. The thing is, the Solheim Cup sure does make things interesting, and the early 2000s were intense. Next up, we've got something that'll make you buzz with excitement. Literally. It's the 2023 Mexico Open. Everything's going smooth. When suddenly, bees. Not just a few bees, we're talking about an entire swarm that decided to crash the party. Erik van Rooyen was just standing there, getting ready for his approach shot at Vidanta Velarda. Everything seems normal when, out of nowhere, and I mean absolutely nowhere, this massive swarm of bees just shows up and all hell breaks loose. You know it's bad when you can literally hear someone in the background just repeatedly saying bees, 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 bees. And then, professional golfers diving for cover, cameramen running away. everyone hitting the deck like they were in some kind of military training exercise. The announcers called it a fog of bees that just blew through the area. Amazingly, nobody got stung. Now you've reached number 11, Rory McIlroy's 2011 Masters collapse, a meltdown so spectacular it actually helped create one of golf's biggest stars. But first, it had to break him. Back in 2011, a baby-faced 21-year-old from Northern Ireland, with a mop of curly hair and the golf world at his feet, McIlroy had been absolutely crushing it all week at Augusta. Like video game numbers crushing it. He opened with a bogey-free 65, added rounds of 69 and 70, and took a 4-shot lead into Sunday. The coronation was all but planned. Nobody could have predicted what happened next. The collapse started slowly. A few wobbles on the front 9, nothing major. Then came the 10th hole, and oh boy, did things get weird. The ball ended up between the cabins to the left of the fairway. Yes, you heard that right. Cabins. Most people didn't even know there were cabins on Augusta National. The TV cameras had literally never shown them before. That's how far off the map Rory had gone. By the time he reached the 13th hole, his ball was swimming with the fish in Race Creek. The final damage? A terrible round of 80. That's right. He went from leading the Masters to shooting the highest score of anyone in the field that day. Counting down from number 10, we've got what might be the strangest putting stance ever seen in professional golf. In 2012, Michelle Wie decided conventional putting was too boring and introduced what she called the tabletop stance. Imagine you're watching golf. Everything's normal, and then suddenly you see a professional golfer bend over until they're practically parallel to the ground, like completely horizontal. That's exactly what Michelle Wie did, and she didn't just do it once. She made it her signature move. People thought she'd lost her mind, but here's the crazy part. It actually worked. She skyrocketed in the rankings, jumping from 119th to 4th, and even won the US Women's Open while looking like she was trying to smell the green. Sometimes the weirdest solutions are the best ones, I guess. Here at number 9, and we're going back to 2005 for what I like to call the Henny Otto experience. And trust me, this is an experience you won't forget. We're at the Nashua Masters, and Otto has just missed this tiny little putt. No big deal, right? I mean, we've all missed short putts before. But what happens next? It's like watching someone have an existential crisis in real time. First, Otto takes this massive, full-on baseball swing with his putter. And when I say baseball swing, I mean like he's trying to hit a home run in Game 7 of the World Series. The only reason the putter didn't end up in orbit is because he managed to hold on to it. And because missing one putt clearly wasn't enough fun, Otto decides to take 5 more putts. And each one gets progressively more ridiculous than the last. It's like watching someone play putt-putt for the first time. Except this is a professional golfer at a professional tournament, having a breakdown on live TV. I bet people back home were actually trying not to laugh. Coming in at number 8, and we're diving into a moment from the 2023 Masters that had everyone talking. Brooks Koepka's caddy, Ricky Elliott, was caught on camera in what looked like a sneaky move, sharing club info with Gary Woodland's caddy. Here's the setup. Brooks nails his shot on the par 5 15th with a 5-iron, and right afterward, cameras spot Elliott mouthing the word 5, as if he's passing on the club choice. Now, under Rule 10.2a, sharing advice like that is a big deal, with a possible 2-stroke penalty hanging over it. But here's where it gets interesting. Augusta National decided not to hand out any penalties, ruling that no advice had actually been given. Of course, this didn't stop the chatter. The video clearly showed Elliott mouthing 5 and Brooks flashing 5 fingers. Still, Brooks later explained that Woodland and his caddy had no clue what club he'd used. Apparently, Woodland even asked Brooks about it while they walked the fairway, reinforcing their story. Now at number 7, we have Rory McIlroy at the 2015 WGC Cadillac Championship. And let me tell you something, when Rory McIlroy, you know, the usually calm, composed, smiling Rory, loses it, he really commits to it. So, we're at Trump National Doral's blue course. Rory's just hit this beautiful 302-yard drive. Everything's looking good, right? Well, that approach shot with his 3-iron? Let's just say it didn't quite go as planned. Now, most golfers might slam their club or maybe give it a little toss. But Rory decides that his club needs swimming lessons. He winds up and launches his 3-iron full force straight into the lake. Now, here's where things get interesting. Donald Trump, who owns the course, wasn't about to let a 3-iron just sit at the bottom of his course's lake. So, in true Trump style, he hired a scuba diver to dive in and retrieve Rory's club. Imagine that. Full scuba gear heading underwater just to fish out one frustrated golfer's sacrificed club. And, sure enough, after a bit of searching, the diver came up with Rory's 3-iron in hand, almost like he'd found buried treasure. The best part? Rory's quote afterward, "Felt good at the time. Yeah, I bet it did, Rory. I bet it did." He then adds, "I don't feel good about it now," which is probably what all of us say after any golf-related meltdown. Next up, number 6. The Masters is known for testing the nerves of even the greatest golfers, but in 2016, Ernie Els faced a nightmare that no golfer could prepare for. A moment so surreal it felt like Augusta itself was out to get him. It was the very first hole of his round, usually a time for setting the tone and finding a rhythm. Els, a seasoned veteran with major titles under his belt, approached the green with confidence, ready to open his tournament on the right foot. But then, something unusual happened. He lined up his putt, likely visualizing an easy start. But as his putter made contact, something felt off. His ball rolled toward the hole, only to veer just wide. Surprised but undeterred, he set up again, expecting a simple tap-in. Yet the ball missed again, and again. Each attempt seemed to defy him more, turning a straightforward putt into a slow-motion disaster. By the time he finally sank the putt, Els had taken an unthinkable 6 strokes just a hole out, recording a painful 10 on that opening par 4. A brutal sight for fans, as the dreaded yips seemed to grip him in front of Augusta's quiet, watching crowd. Moral of the story? When the yips show up, even a champion like Ernie is in for a wild ride. Now on number 5, we're moving to 2023. Picture this. Max Homa standing on the 18th hole at Riviera, the course where he grew up dreaming of moments like this. The Genesis Invitational wasn't just another tournament. It was his tournament. And on this day, everything was on the line. Homa had already lived the dream once, winning this event 2 years ago and receiving the trophy from his childhood hero, Tiger Woods. But that victory came during the pandemic, with no family or friends there to share the moment. This time was different. His loved ones were lining the ropes, cheering him on as he battled head-to-head with Jon Rahm. By the time they reached the final stretch, Homa was tied with Rahm. Then Rahm pulled ahead with 2 clutch birdies, leaving Homa needing one last miracle to force a playoff. But he had a chance. Homa faced a chip that would either cement his legend or leave him just short. With a smooth, deliberate swing, the ball left his club perfectly, low, spinning, and right on target. It was good. No, it was great. The crowd began to stir, their excitement building as the ball rolled toward the hole like it was destined to drop. This was the moment. It's going in. It has to go in. But then, it hit the lip of the cup. Homa, still hunched from the shot, dropped to the ground, his head in his hands, staring in disbelief. For a split second, he had believed it was going in. Everyone had. But now, the dream was over. In his post-round press conference, Homa's emotions finally caught up with him. "When I won in 21, nobody was here, and it hurts me not to be able to do that with everyone here," he said, pausing to collect himself, his voice cracking under the weight of it all. "But I tried, man." It's time for number 4, and we've got what might be the most creative or desperate job posting in golf history. Now, have you ever thought about becoming a caddy for a pro golfer? Well, in 2005, someone actually bought that opportunity on eBay. That year, Australian golfer David Diaz needed a caddy for the Open at St. Andrews. But keep in mind that this wasn't just any tournament. This was the year Jack Nicklaus was saying goodbye to professional golf. It was kind of a big deal. So, usually if you're a pro and needing a caddy, you look within the circle of pros, your colleagues or golf peers, right? But if you're David Diaz, where do you look? Exactly. You avoid traditional channels and go straight to put the job up for auction on eBay. So, who won this bizarre auction? A London banker named Stephen Bridle, who went by the username Looperboy. Just a funny detail. He shelled out over $20,000 for the privilege. That's right, 20 grand to carry someone else's golf clubs. Diaz was so committed to making this work that he actually paid a professional caddy £90 to teach Bridle the ropes during a practice round. This London banker must have thought he hit the jackpot, getting to walk those legendary St. Andrews fairways. Unfortunately, this tale didn't have quite the happy ending everyone hoped for. Diaz missed the cut. making it probably the most expensive 2 days of golf spectating ever. Sliding into our top 3, the 1999 Open at Carnoustie gave us what might be the most spectacular meltdown in golf history. Let me paint the picture. Van de Velde is leading by 3 shots going to the final hole. He just needs a double bogey 6 to become the first French winner of the Open since 1907. That's right, he could take twice the number of shots par requires and still win. What could possibly go wrong? Well, everything. Absolutely everything. First, instead of playing it safe with an iron off the tee, Van de Velde pulls out his driver. Why? Nobody knows. His tee shot barely cleared the berry burn and ends up in the rough. Okay, not ideal, but still no problem, right? Just lay up, wedge it on, 2-putt for your double bogey and collect the claret jug. But no, that would be too simple. Instead, Van de Velde decides to go for the green with a 2-iron. The ball hits the grandstand railing, bounces off a stone wall, and ends up in thick rough. Still technically salvageable, but then he chunks his next shot right into the berry burn. And this is where things get truly bizarre. Van de Velde, now clearly having lost all sense of reality, takes off his shoes and socks, rolls up his pants, and wades into the water. He's actually considering hitting the ball out of the burn. The entire golf world is watching this French golfer strip down on live TV, standing ankle-deep in Scottish Creek water, contemplating what would surely be the most ill-advised shot in golf history. Thankfully, after what feels like an eternity, he comes to his senses and takes a drop. But by now, the damage is done. He makes a triple bogey 7, falling into a 3-way playoff, which he ultimately loses to Paul Lawrie. So, what should have been a historic victory for French golf turned into one of the sport's most infamous disasters ever. Moving on to number 2, we witness perhaps the most gut-wrenching 2 feat in women's golf history. Lexi Thompson's 2017 collapse at the CME Group Tour Championship isn't just a story about missing a short putt. It's about watching a whole season's worth of achievements slip away in seconds. Let me paint you a picture that'll make any golfer cringe. You're Lexi Thompson. You've had an emotional roller coaster of a year, including that controversial penalty at the ANA Inspiration that cost you a major title. But here you are, standing over a 2-foot putt on the final hole of the season's last tournament. Make it, and you're not just the player of the year. You'll become the world number 1. Plus, an extra $500,000 in prize money. Miss it? Well, nobody's thinking about missing it because it's 2 feet. But sometimes golf can be unbelievably cruel. The gallery was silent. The trophy was practically being engraved. Then, in a moment that seemed to unfold in slow motion, Thompson's putter moved forward. The ball started on line, then, inexplicably, lipped out. The collective gasp from the crowd said it all. What makes this collapse even more dramatic? This wasn't just any tournament. This was the culmination of a season where Thompson had shown incredible resilience. After being hit with that 4-stroke penalty at the ANA Inspiration for a violation that a TV viewer spotted and reported, she'd bounce back to win twice and rack up multiple second-place finishes. Despite the devastating missed putt, Thompson still walked away with the Vare Trophy for the season's lowest scoring average and a $1 million bonus for winning the race to CME Globe. In the end, as you see, everything turns out fine, I guess. Now here it is, the number 1 spot on the list. And this one got to be the most heartbreaking moment in golf history. Again, we're at the Masters, and this time, it's Argentine golfer Roberto De Vicenzo taking center stage in a story that still stings to this day. So, here's the situation. De Vicenzo had just finished an incredible round of 65, putting himself in perfect position for a playoff. But his playing partner, Tommy Aaron, mistakenly marked him down for a par 4 on the 17th hole, instead of the birdie 3 that De Vicenzo had actually made. Unaware of the error, De Vicenzo signed his scorecard, thereby making the incorrect score official. Now in golf, the rule is clear. Players are fully responsible for their own scorecards. And once you sign it, that's it. So, signing for a higher score means that score stands. As a result, De Vicenzo's official score was recorded as 66 instead of 65, leaving him just 1 painful stroke behind Bob Golby, who was declared the winner. This incident cost De Vicenzo a spot in a playoff for the championship. When he realized the mistake, his reaction was both humble and unforgettable. He simply said, "What a stupid I am." It wasn't just a missed chance at glory, it was a brutal reminder of golf's unbreakable rules. And with a green jacket on the line, you don't want to break those golf rules. Since you've made it this far, you have to check out this next video right in the middle of the screen. Enjoy!